Plymouth County is seeing fewer foreclosure deeds in 2011. Is it a sign of a stronger market, or is it a mirage? That's the question that we will be trying to answer over the next few months as we try to see what the trend is in foreclosures. Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds for Plymouth County. This is a monthly news journal about real estate activity within Plymouth County. We do a report about the registry and what we do, as well as a report for the previous month's records and recordings. The Registry of Deeds is where all land documents are recorded throughout the 27 communities of Plymouth County. We record documents, we then scan them and preserve them forever so people can see them online. We then prepare an index that people can find the documents, and then it gets microfilmed for protection. It is a very complicated system, but is what we use to protect everyone's private property rights. Over the course of the last year, we've been talking quite a bit about changes in the real estate market. The real estate market in Plymouth County is distressed, as we recognize. However, there's still a lot of activity that goes on. There were 557 deeds recorded in November, compared to 626 deeds in October. And it was up 22% from the 456 deeds in November of 2010. It remains down year-to-date 7%, but with the drop in foreclosure deeds that we'll be talking about, a lot of that has related to the slowdown in national lenders to take back properties. We recorded 2,405 mortgages in November, compared to 2,201 mortgages in October. People are taking advantage of historically low interest rates, and we are thankful for that. We'll be talking in the second segment of this program about a new program coming out through the federal government, the Home Affordable Refinance Program, that allows people to refinance even if they're underwater. As far as foreclosure reports, we'll be running an image right now on the show of the number of foreclosure deeds and notices per community. Brockton being the #1 community in Plymouth County for foreclosure deeds, followed by Plymouth and Wareham. The foreclosure deeds are down 30% year to date. Foreclosure notices are down 34% year to date, and we'll continue to track those numbers on a regular basis. If you go to our website, www.plymouthdeeds.org, you can see a full description of what happened in November on the Register's monthly report. There are a number of other notable things that happened this month. Attorney General Coakley filed a lawsuit against 5 national lenders. This whole new issue of refinancing for underwater people, homeowners is becoming available, and other things that we'll report about in future months. Thank you very much for watching this show, and we'll move on to segment 2, an educational piece of this show. Welcome back to the Register's Report. Again, my name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds for Plymouth County. In this segment, we try to do something educational in nature, a little bit of what might be going out there in the marketplace that's a little bit different. And my guest on this show is Joe Medaio. Joe, how are you?
How you doing, John? Thanks for having me.
Joe works for Neighborhood Housing Services, and they're very involved in foreclosure counseling and foreclosure education in the northwest section of Plymouth County in particular. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your agency?
Well, I've been in the banking business for 40 years, and I was looking for something that kind of ended up to be a semi-retirement job. So I've been with Neighborhood Housing now it's been almost 4 years. And Neighborhood Housing has been in Brockton for 4 years. Neighborhood Housing is an organization that's been around for 25 years, I think, in Quincy. And we came here primarily 4 years ago because of the foreclosure crisis. What we do here in Brockton is we work with at-risk borrowers to try to help them work with their lenders to see if we can get them some help on their mortgages. We do a lot of the HAMP, Home Affordable Modification paperwork for them and things of that nature. We also do home buyer education. So, on the flip side of that, we try to educate first-time home buyers so they the hope is that they don't make the same mistakes that some of the borrowers made back when the housing crisis started. So, we're just in the beginning stages of starting a rehab program. We're putting the pieces together with a contract with the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, so we're going to be able to do those kinds of things, help people with small rehabs in their homes here, just administering the money that's coming from the city. So.
Well, you guys do a great job. I've had your coworker, Brian Moriarty, on a couple times on different facets.
He's actually my boss.
Oh, well, your boss, Brian
My
Moriarty.
boss.
I don't want you to lose your job.
No, we do have
this interview.
We do have a great working relationship.
Yeah, Brian's a great guy, and he works very hard. And certainly the role of neighborhood housing services in Brockton has come at a very crucial time. The housing market, which I saw when I first came in, when it was booming, has faced this crisis now for 3 or 4 years that hasn't really leveled off or even coming to an end that we can see.
Well, and it's, if you look at the short history that we've had, I think probably in the first maybe 2.5 to 3 years that I've been here, what we've seen is an awful lot of people who have really were hit with the subprime mortgage crisis. And, they were either taken advantage of or, they were, in some cases, taken advantage of. In some cases, it just became very easy for them to get the mortgage. So they just kind of went along. And so the interesting dynamic is really over the last probably year to 18 months, now what we're seeing is the economy have an effect on it, so that a lot of the people that we're seeing, John, are coming in with, conventional mortgage, but they've had, loss of income, either, husband, wife, spouse loses a job, or, someone was working more hours, is working less hours, so incomes are reduced, and so the crisis has become now is it's kind of like, it's difficult to make the payments that, when they got the mortgage, it was no problem, but their situation has changed. So that's affected, that's really what we see as being an effect of a lot of the situations that we're seeing today. So.
Yeah, we get people coming into the registry pretty regularly that are just at the early stages of trouble, and I always advise them to go to a housing counselor. Your office does a great job. There's a woman that I spoke with today from South Shore Housing down in Kingston that is trying to help out a little bit down in that area. And I also spoke with Laura Schaefer from the Plymouth Redevelopment Authority. They're constantly trying to work with people. Brockton, unfortunately, is the largest community as far as foreclosures goes in Plymouth County, as well as the largest community. However, there are foreclosures all over Plymouth County, and we try to make people aware of it. We do a monthly report that we identify the number of foreclosure notices and foreclosure deeds, the take back of the property by lenders, and try to work with counselors and get them that information so they can help people in the early stages. And you've done a great job, but it's still very hard to get those things across the finish line.
Well, one of the things that I heard that, I think is key for those people who might be out there is that if you are in the beginning stages of a problem with your mortgage and, struggling to make ends meet, get in and see us early. That's very important. We're right up on Legion Parkway. We're part of Harbor One's Multicultural Banking Center. Actually, one of the things that we usually tell folks is to go to our website, which is www.neighborhoodhousing.org, and when you get to that website, if you click on the foreclosure assistance window, it'll take you to a screen that actually lets you print out the packet of material for the information that we need to get. So, one of the things that I tell clients is the good news is our services don't cost the homeowner a cent. The bad news is that we need to get an awful lot of information from you before we can begin to help you. And the kinds of things that we need to get is, budgets and bank statements and tax returns, and we actually just recently have found that we actually need to get a working budget. So we actually need to see where people are spending their money. So we need to see copies of their bills and things like that, so we can put together a realistic budget that we can then turn around and go back to the lender and say, look, this is the financial picture for this person. Can you give them some help? Can you give them some assistance? In some cases, that might be a short-term fix of a forbearance, which is reducing payments for a period of time. Longer-term fix might be starting off with a forbearance and then getting into a permanent modification, which would be a reduced rate in payment schedule for the mortgage going forward. Unfortunately, they have their guidelines that they have to work with too. So, we do the best we can to work with the lender to see if we can get some assistance. So.
We've had some discussions on this show about modifications, and we try to guide people to do that early, and everyone should go early and talk to somebody as soon as they can.
Right.
We've also had parts of this program on short sales. We've had both real estate attorneys and real estate brokers talking about short sales, which is an option that people can pursue.
Yeah.
But the satisfaction level that I hear back from everyone that goes to your office is very high. And I know you've done these multi-hundred person programs 3 or 4 different times at Massasoit Conference Center and a couple of the local schools, and it solved a lot of problems. But unfortunately, many times the national lenders, despite 3 efforts and 3 packages, still haven't satisfactorily met the number we'd like to see.
Part of the frustration is that our ability to help someone is a function of working with that lender. So, I have people ask me all the time, what do you think the possibilities are of me getting some help? And I basically say, I make no guarantees. And the reason for that is that it really is if the lender is willing to work with the homeowner, then we can probably get something done. Now, unfortunately, and this is something you and I were talking about off air before, it seems like the lenders, more often than not, don't want to work with the homeowner, and subsequently we don't get the movement that we'd like. But
in the earlier segment of my show, I talked about Attorney General Coakley's lawsuit against the 5 major lenders for a variety of issues, including robo-signing and failure to file assignments, and also just generally not working to resolve the problems. But
exactly.
Of all the HUD money that I've seen go into the solution to foreclosures, the HUD money that goes to your office and Plymouth Redevelopment Authority and places like the social housing for counseling and for assisting people, does 2 things. First of all, it solves people's problems in many cases, but it also gives people a place to turn to, that they have a receptive ear, unlike many times when they're calling into those lender hotlines and talking to different people every time they call. So we appreciate what you do, appreciate what you've done in the past. We know we're going to be working together in the future because it's not going away.
Exactly.
And let's hope that some of the new programs that are coming out will have a little more success, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about today.
The new program, which is not really a new program, it's just a program that basically some of the requirements of this program have changed, okay? Right. In addition to the Home Affordable Modification Program, there's a program out there that's called HARP, which stands for Home Affordable Refinance Program, okay? And the way that HARP worked in the past was if a borrower had a loan-to-value that was under 125%, they would be able to potentially refinance their mortgage from a higher rate to a lower rate, which obviously would reduce the payment. If you really think about it, given the rate environment that we're in right now, if you had somebody who was at 5 or 6% when they get their mortgage and now they can get themselves down to 4, okay, then in effect, if they could refinance, they'd be able to probably solve the problem. The issue is that there isn't a lender around that's going to refinance a mortgage that is, larger than the value of the home. Right. So that's why HARP was put into place. The two changes. First of all, it's been extended for an additional year because it was supposed to end in December of 2012, and now it's gone to December of 2013. And the restriction of the 125% loan to value on 30-year fixed rate mortgages has gone away. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now again, this is a program that the information that's coming out it was just announced at the end of November. Right. So we're still trying to see what the various pieces of this are going to be in terms of how it's actually going to work. One of the things that the literature that I was looking at indicated that one of the issues that I think is going to minimize its ability to help people is that the person who would be refinancing can't have had a delinquency any time in the previous 6 months. And they can't have had they can have at least one 30-day delinquency in the 6 months prior to that. So right. Even though there's probably a lot of people who are in a position where they are, it is an issue of loan to value and things like that, okay? That's probably going to be a restriction that's going to prevent a lot of people from qualifying for this program too as well.
Every month on this show and through our newsletter and the radio stations that we talk to every month, we talk about our increasing mortgages based upon people taking advantage of the low interest rates. Interest rates, as you know, as a former banker, are incredible right now.
Frankly, I just refinanced my own property.
Yeah. And it's very, very frustrating to those people who would like to save some money, maybe pay off their loan early, or maybe go out to dinner a couple extra times a month, or pay for a college tuition, as we know. That would like a lower rate, and they've been frustrated because of the value of their home being lower than their mortgage, underwater borrowers. And, I went to a mass realtors conference up in Worcester a couple weeks ago. They're excited to see whether this works. I have a report from Moody's that I showed you earlier that they're expecting and hopeful that it works.
I think I got the same report here.
And I think there's been some dissatisfaction with some of the previous programs that have come forward that didn't meet the goals of the program in helping as many people as they'd like. We just hope this one works.
Yeah, and I could sit here and talk about the requirements and say it's probably going to rule a lot of people out. The requirements are still, some people are going to qualify for this program, and I think it makes a lot of sense. These, by the way, these are loans that are basically subsidized by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They have to be that, okay, and they have to have been. Let me look at my literature here. I think they had to have been loans that Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac took on before May 31st of 2009, I think it was. So, it can't be anything that's relatively recent. Right. And frankly, I don't think, rates being what they are, I think, 2009 rates probably were more, my recollection is they were probably in the 5s then, so there's not really that much of an advantage. Okay, there'd be more of an advantage for someone who, had a 6.5 or a 7 or something along those lines to get to a 4.5 today. Right.
Well, so. I again, like I advise people that are on the edge and are afraid of falling into foreclosure, or might have even got a foreclosure notice. Don't wait. When you talk to your lender, and if you want to talk to your lender and then call a housing counselor. I know I've talked to you and Brian about it, that you guys are willing to help people through the procedure of how to identify whether they qualify, whether they're Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan to begin with, and the other process they have to go do. And I again, Laura Schaefer at Plymouth Redevelopment Authority is taking calls already and trying to help people prepare for it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that I did want to get out to the public is that there is website called, it's www.makinghomesaffordable.gov. And if you go on that website, I think it's the second or third icon on the top, basically something about getting help. I apologize, I meant to write this down,
Yeah,
but
that's good.
you can actually find there is a way on that website that you can research your loan to find out if it's Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, okay? And there's a couple of things that you need to do to fill it in, but because I'm sure that there's a lot of people that don't realize that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac might be holding their mortgage today.
Absolutely.
So that's not something that they would know.
At the closing, they were doing it with a local lender, and before you know it, it goes off.
And I've had a number of people who have said to me, well, if Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac had my loan, wouldn't they tell me? Well, no, they wouldn't. Okay, that's not. There's not a requirement for them to tell you that.
Can you repeat that website again?
Yeah, it's www.makinghomesaffordable.gov. And actually, there's information on there. There's a huge amount of information in there about, do you qualify technically for a modification, and size of the mortgage, when did you get it, those kinds of things. But there's a wealth of information on there and resources for people to look at. But one of the things that's on there is that Fannie Mae Freddie Mac check.
There's a link, and they can
There's
just
a link
into
there,
that,
and you can link into that, and it flips you over, and you put information in, and it'll come back and tell you, if you do have a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac.
Yeah, but don't hesitate. If you think you might qualify, or after looking at that, if you think you do qualify, try to make a call and see if your lender is willing to help you. If not, call Neighborhood Housing and try to get them or the other agencies I mentioned to help you out. Just quickly, because we're kind of wrapping up, what do you see as the future over the next year or so in foreclosures?
Well, again, John, conversations that you and I have had, and we've had, as in some of the places that we travel, we know that the lenders were kind of backed off because of the robo-signing stuff, and I'm sure that you've talked about that in the show in the past. So we kind of are anticipating that there's going to be a bump up in notices and actual foreclosures at some point in the not too distant future, probably sometime in next year, because there was probably a period of, I want to say, 6, 7, 8, and maybe even 9 months when nothing was going on. Okay, even we'd put an application in for a modification, and it would sort of lingered there simply because I think the lenders just said, we got to get this part of the thing squared away before we can work on this part. So, so I think that they were dealing with the whole paperwork issue that got them in trouble, and frankly, that's why the Attorney General sued them. Okay.
From January through November, foreclosure deeds in Plymouth County are down 30%.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty standard, but everyone in the industry seems to think that it's going to go up again in 2012, and we'll have to see and just try to deal with it.
We were heartened to find out recently that HUD and we were actually part of an organization called NeighborWorks America, and one of the things that we found out recently is that the foreclosure funding, which we anticipated might be shrinking and or going away, was actually increased. So apparently somebody's listening, even though the numbers don't indicate that we need to continue to fund foreclosure counseling. It appears as though, somewhere in the government somebody said, well, wait a minute, that we probably do. So, so we're fortunate in that respect. Okay, so that's kind of where we think things are going, and I think talking with you, I know that's what you think too as well. So. People are going to need us more, unfortunately, and foreclosure. I think I have this little joke that I said that unfortunately foreclosures seems to be a growth industry for the time being, and Well,
keep up the good work, because every foreclosure that can be prevented either through a modification, a short sale, the expectation is through the HARP that you might save more people that might get into trouble if you can get them into a lower payment. And we hope that all goes forward in a positive way. And we appreciate what you do every day, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Well, and we appreciate your assistance too, because we've got a good working relationship with you, and thanks for having me on.
Great, thanks, John.
Okay, John.
Thanks. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds for Plymouth County. This is a news journal about real estate activity within Plymouth County. I want to thank Joe Medallo from Neighborhood Housing Services, who came on and talked about foreclosure issues, and in particular, the ability for people whose properties are underwater through the HOP program to refinance and take advantage of low rates. In this last segment, the final segment of this report, we usually do something a little lighter in nature and talk about a couple of our notable land records, particularly in this holiday season. Christmas is upon us, or however you celebrate the holiday with Hanukkah or Kwanzaa. We'll talk a little bit about Christmas. There are some very famous residents of Plymouth County that have been involved in promoting the spirit of Christmas. Edgar Rose Snow, a little story of him will come up on the screen, was a writer about the Boston Harbor Islands, but he was also one of the flying Santas that would drop presents for the lighthouse keepers' children throughout the Boston Harbor Islands. Reginald Aubrey Fessenden was a resident of Marshfield that had a radio tower put up in the Brant Rock section of Marshfield. Was the first transatlantic radio broadcast in 1906, and on Christmas Eve in 1906, he broadcast Silent Night, the religious hymn, across the ocean and was heard as far away as the Caribbean islands. And of course, James Edgar, the person that we look in Plymouth County to as a real promoter of Christmas, the first department Santa Claus, led to celebrations here in Brockton, including the most recent Christmas parade. The 25th anniversary of the Christmas parade is quite an event, and John and Paul Marion, who work on that, as well as the downtown merchants, and Kevin Brower in particular, have done a great job in promoting that. This year was warm weather, and there was a Santa hat challenge the week before, and then the parade came off wonderfully. We also do a segment from our plaque and statue registry. The one that will be coming up on the screen is the picture of me with Shana Barnes from Congressman Lynch's office and Gwen Cookie Knowles standing in front of the James Edgar plaque in Brockton on the front of the parking garage, which is across the street from the James Edgar store, the first place in America there was a department store Santa. It's recognized around the world. So at the end of this show, and in celebration of the season, it's hats off to all those individuals that bring and have brung holiday spirit to the people of Plymouth County and across America. And also thanks to those individuals who take time and money from their own accounts to help out those in need during this season. The generosity of programs like the Jingle Bell Run that the Enterprise and Dave Gorman work together to raise funds for the needy at this end of Plymouth County, all of the Salvation Army workers, Marshfield Christmas program they run for their residents, and everyone across Plymouth County that make sure that there's one child that wouldn't normally be able to receive a gift gets one. And thank you on behalf of the people of Plymouth County for all that you do. And I want to thank Aaron Tebold and Brockton Community Television for making this show accessible throughout Plymouth County and the work that they do, allowing us to let people know the changes in the real estate market and some of the things that are happening out there of general information. So thanks once again, and a happy holiday season. Merry Christmas to all.